Hello to all of you who are interested in hearing people talk about what it's like to be high. I'd first like to say thank you to all of you who are listening. It's not easy getting the word out for something that you've made that you want to be experienced by other people, so I'm glad you're here. If you've been entertained in any way or have learned something, I would really appreciate it if you could share this with others. Even though there aren't a lot of people listening yet, I did get a nice message from someone, and I wanted to read a quote from them that I think sums up this podcast nicely. Quote, "It's more to get an idea of what it's like to use cannabis because everyone has different reactions or sensations. The information is interesting and can help people understand the sensations that they're experiencing. It was a fresh perspective on what to expect." End quote. I appreciate that kind of note, and I hope that you keep on listening to see what else people have to say. So this episode is all about time and how people's perception of it can change when high or not. This seems to be a stereotype of the stoner, someone who's always late, someone who gets lost in thought, etc. Well, this episode and the next couple will show that that's not always true, but it definitely is true some of the time. Roll the tape!
When you're high, your sense of time is distorted a little bit.
It was definitely affected. That's important to know, like that is a thing.
Oh, yes. I mean, I remember talking about that. But what was it about time? Like, I've forgotten what it was.
You know what? I want to say that it was changed, but I can't remember if it was speeded up or slowed down.
To quote a famous album, Child's Garden of Grass, time can either be longer or go by in a minute.
Two things happen with it. One, either something happens and you think it took hours, but it only took 15 minutes, or you've been doing something for what you think is 15 minutes, but it turned out that it's already dark outside and you've been doing it all day.
I've never really had time slow down or perception of the time passing really change at all.
Yeah, I guess marijuana doesn't really affect like my perception of time. It's just, it is what it is.
My sense of time is ridiculously good.
Personally, I've always had a pretty decent sense of time. I worked for quite a number of years baking, so
I'm actually pretty good at just knowing what time it is.
You just kind of get on a rhythm of timing. I notice it now.
When I smoke weed, that doesn't change at all. Sometimes it's more on point because I'm trying to make sure I'm not being a sloppy idiot.
My sense of time when I'm high is not usually very good.
I'm really bad at being on time, and I attribute that to how much I smoke pot.
I tend to get a lot more done in less time, but that time goes by a lot faster. So I get through a bunch of work and I'm like, oh wow, I just did a ton of stuff, and then I look at the clock and I'm like, oh, that took a while, but yeah, I did a ton of stuff.
Time goes by faster than I realize, I want to say.
It seems like it's moving slower, but it's actually moving faster.
Because I was just sitting in the car the other day. My boyfriend and I were smoking and we were talking. We were waiting to go inside the grocery store. We didn't realize how fast time went by. We'd sat there for so long. I'm not keeping track of time as clearly as if I were totally sober.
Every Monday we would play like Monday night football, and there were certain moments where like I felt like certain things just kind of slowed down, and I was just really more like in sense of like what was going on, and that was really cool. It made playing more fun. But most of the time, yeah, like my reflexes actually were not as good. And that made it even more difficult when like things happened a lot quicker. I'd see the guy throwing the football, and then the next thing I know, it'd be there. It was probably really high, but yeah, I did encounter that a lot.
If I'm doing something that I can lose my time in, like, for instance, looking on Facebook or looking on Pinterest or Instagram or something like one of these social media sites, I tend to lose a lot of time in there, especially when I'm stoned. I don't even, like, it doesn't even occur to me. I'll spend an hour and a half just looking through Facebook, and then I'll be like, where did my night go? Because I was just sitting here. My perception of time is a little off, and I don't realize it until it's too late.
Oh, it can totally vary. Sense of time is, again, that's the reason to smoke pot when you really don't have a big responsibility, because you don't want to have a sense of time. You don't want to care if you have to be somewhere at a certain time or do something at a certain time.
I like to escape time. I'm a fan of time because we need it in order to be like, hey, we're going to be there at 6:30, so everyone is there at 6:30. Like, it's an awesome tool, but no one wants to just hammer nails all day. So like, you got to put your tool down, you know? So I feel like I get a better understanding, or a different understanding, an alternate understanding of time while being high.
I enjoy playing games on my phone. So if I had to hit a pot and I'm playing games, I could be doing that for hours and not realize where the time has gone. So it's a great time waster.
It can cave in on itself too, because then you'd be like, oh, how much time has it been? You know what I mean? You're like, oh wait, I don't know. And then you run and look at the clock and you're like, oh, okay, we're safe. Or, oh my God, I gotta go, you know, that kind of thing.
On like a road trip or something, if you're on a car on the highway just going along, you're just as bored, and maybe even more bored sometimes, that time can kind of stretch out while you're sitting there staring out the window or whatever. But then if you look back over, you know, maybe a full day of driving, you feel like it went very quickly.
I am late for everything that I do because I have this type of personality that I want to get as much stuff done as I can within however much time. So if I tell somebody I'm going to go meet them in an hour, I'll spend 45 minutes cleaning the house or doing something that I know that I need to get done. Even if I'm stoned, it's tenfold. I'll want to, do all this stuff, but I'm also getting distracted, so it's taking me longer. And so then next thing I know, it's been an hour and a half. I'm already a half hour late and I haven't even left my house yet.
I've never noticed that the time I'm spending doing things seems to change in perception. I think it's just as, I don't know, maybe just my perspective of it is always more of that like bigger picture rhythm of the day, like how much time has passed based on the events or based on what I'm observing.
It's pretty amazing. It's good to be high and be outside of time.
All right, class, so what did we learn? Well, we learned that everybody is different, but also sometimes similar. People perceive time differently, probably high or sober, and I'll bet that they perceive life differently too, just in general. And that's what's great about people. They're all different, and also similar. This is a theme that we will see over and over again in this podcast. But time specifically is interesting because it doesn't actually change. It doesn't speed up or slow down. It really is just your perception of it that is changing. Does time even exist at all? In some senses, yes, and in other senses, no. Now, I'm not going to get into a discussion about general relativity or quantum physics because I just don't know enough, but it is fun to think about. At least I think so. So thank you for listening. Feel free to connect with me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or email. All of that info is in the episode description. And please rate, review on whatever platform you're on. And if you found this entertaining and worth listening to, then please share the crap out of it. Next time, we will talk about people's focus when they're high.